Good morning, Niner fans. The wait is finally over for the 49er defensive coordinator position. They did it early in the morning, 4 a.m. on the, over here on the West Coast. So it might have been a decent time on the East Coast, 7 a.m. or whatever, but I was sleeping. I didn't wake up till about an hour ago. And the 49ers, after a deliberate search, they looked into internal candidates, they looked to external candidates. They finally hired their new defensive coordinator. They also added someone else to the staff. Now, it wasn't just defensive coordinator that they hired last night. As we know, ESPN's Adam Schefter and Jeremy Fowler on Saturday, just a couple hours ago, said that the Niners are promoting Nick Sorenson, the team's defensive pass game specialist and nickel cornerback coach, to be the defensive coordinator. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, Nick Sorenson is the big name. That's the name we've been waiting for, the internal hire. We'll talk a little bit about that. I can't be live too long. I do have work this morning, unfortunately. So maybe I'll come back a little live later. But Nick Sorenson was promoted to be the 49ers' new defensive coordinator. He is the defensive pass game specialist, or was, and a nickel cornerback coach. Well, obviously, we know Steve Wilkes got the can on Valentine's Day, February 14th. And the team is also expected to hire former Los Angeles Chargers coach Brandon Staley as the assistant head coach. Now, what is his role going to be? We'll have to find out. My guess is he'll probably assist in helping out Sorensen, who is a new defensive coordinator. He's been on the team since, for a couple of years now. Now, this is what John Lynch said earlier in the week. He says there's no rush to hire a coordinator, but he did reiterate that Kyle Shanahan said when he announced Wilkes' firing that San Francisco didn't want to stray far from what it has done defensively for the past 7 years. So it sounds like they knew they were going to get an internal guy, although they wanted to hire a few guys out there. And, this is what John Lynch says. He says, we know who we are, who we're going to be, and that's not going to make a wholesale schematic change there. We feel good about where we're at. So it did kind of point in the likelihood of an in-house hire, but at the same time, I do remember Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch saying, yeah, we're going to look at some other candidates to kind of get some new insight, and that's what Brandon Staley is going to bring to this team. Is, yeah, you might have Sorensen who knows the scheme, but now you're going to have Staley to give you a fresh new look and maybe some different change ups here and there. Maybe you're coaching a play and then Staley can say, put his 2 cents in on the move, things from there. So, basically going to be the same scheme, though, that the 49ers have ran under Robert Saleh and DeMeco Ryans. So, in Sorensen, the Niners should be able to retain the continuity that Shanahan Lynch have sought, right? They wanted to keep it the same. They said it last year when they hired Wilkes. We want to keep it the same. We don't want to change too much. And, Sorensen knows the team, right? He's going to be a first-time coordinator in the league, but he's been with the Niners since 2022. He joined the staff as a defensive assistant. In his second season, he was promoted to the defensive pass game specialist, and he was put in charge of the nickelbacks. He was previously with Jacksonville as a special teams coach, and then before that, Sorensen was an assistant special teams coach and assistant defensive backs coach and secondary coach for 8 years with the Seattle Seahawks. So he's played under Pete Carroll's scheme, under the Legion of Boom. So I feel like he knows what it needs to be done to get a defense to a high level. But again, it is an in-house hire. I wasn't too hyped about an in-house hire, in my opinion. I just was like, hoping they'd get that big guy, hoping they'd get the big move, hoping they'd get the big signing. But Kyle and John, they just said they wanted to keep it simple. They don't want to stray from too many, ideas that they have. They want to keep their philosophy the same. The same has not got us in Super Bowl. But, hey, what do we know? Maybe this is the move. Maybe this is the guy that could help get him over the top. If not, they'll fire him and move on to someone else in-house. But I don't know. The way I look at it is you went and you spent all this time. I mean, they had a lot of interviews. Like, it was drawn out. This is the last team to hire a DC. I just feel it was kind of like a lackluster signing. I don't think that Sorensen's bad. He's been on the team for several years, right? He knows the system. He's coached under Salah, he's coached under DeMeco. He's coached under Pete Carroll. He knows that great Legion of Boom defense. But if you're gonna, I don't know. I just wasn't excited about an in-house hire. but it is what it is. Now, Brandon Staley, the 49ers are adding another, experienced defensive guy. He's been in the league for several years. Now, I know he wasn't a good head coach with the Chargers, but he's going to be an assistant coach, right? Assistant coach. And that's what Anthony Lynn was for the 49ers. Anthony Lynn, who left the 49ers, right, to be the run game coordinator of the Washington Commanders, needed to be replaced. So the 49ers replaced Anthony Lynn with Brandon Staley. And now it's kind of important because the 49ers did lose a big part of their coaching staff. And now you're going to add him into, you're going to add Brandon Staley into this lineup as a coach and take a big role for this coaching staff. So Brandon Staley, we all know he coached for over 2 years as the Los Angeles Chargers head coach. But before that, he was the LA Rams defensive coordinator in 2020. And he previously worked outside the linebacker he previously worked as the outside linebackers coach for the Chicago Bears and the Denver Broncos. So he knows a little bit about defense. Staley's defensive background is different from what the Niners do schematically. But again, what did I say? Lynch said that in Indianapolis that he wouldn't prelude Staley from being a potential addition to the staff. This is what he said about Staley specifically. He said he's a really bright dude. We have an open mind, but we do know there's certain core principles that we're going to always be on the defensive side. I wouldn't rule him out because of that. So Staley was one of 5 known interviews for the defensive coordinator job. The Niners also spoke with Daniel Bullocks. They spoke with, and he's their secondary coach, Daniel Bullocks. They spoke with Kansas City DB coach Dave Merritt and Las Vegas Raiders safeties coach Gerald Alexander. So a lot of DB guys, right? So they looked into Daniel Bullocks, the DB coach, Dave Merritt, DB coach, and Las Vegas Raiders coach Gerald Alexander. He's the safeties coach. All of those guys are DB type guys. Nick Sorenson, also pass game specialist, nickel cornerback coach. And the one guy they didn't hire as DC, but an assistant, he was more of a linebacker specified guy, which is funny because Kyle said they like linebacker type coaches, and they went with the cornerback type guy. So I guess they kind of smoked us on that one, smoke season. So that's what it is. Brandon Staley, he's added to the staff. He's going to be a assistant coach. I don't know. How do you guys feel about Brandon Staley? How do you feel about Nick Sorenson? Those are the 2 big hires. I don't know, man. I don't hate the Brandon Staley as a assistant coach. I mean, he's not going to be in charge of play calling, but he might have a say here and there. They did need an assistant, coach because Anthony Lynn was gone. Now, the thing that I see it is just a veteran type coach to help Nick Sorenson hold his hand a little bit. You got to hold the boy's hand a little bit because Nick Sorenson hasn't been a defense coordinator. So you get a guy with a little bit of experience who you like, you guys respect, and you think he's a good coach. Maybe you can aid Nick Sorenson. So to me, it sounds like they have 2 guys doing one job, 2 guys doing one guy's job. That's what Kyle and John want to do. Is like, okay, instead of one guy, maybe we have 2 guys doing one job, just like they replaced Adam Peters' job with 2 guys. Maybe that's the way the 49ers are going to do it. Say, well, if one guy can't do it, 2 guys are better than one. I don't know. Sometimes I don't think that's right. Because, if you're on a team and one guy doesn't pull their weight, and the other guy's going to be a little salty. I don't know. Hopefully they can get it done. Hopefully both of these guys can be, step in step with each other. But to me, I feel like Brandon Staley's brought on to kind of check Sorensen and make sure he's doing okay. The Sorensen, again, he's a new defense coordinator. They did it with Robert Salah. They did it with D'Amico Ryans, 2 guys that never had experience, became defense coordinators. They were really good coordinators. I think Sorensen could be a good one. He understands the scheme. He's been on the Niners for a bit. He's had good defensive, experience as a coach in the league. But again, when you have Vrabel, Pete Carroll, guys like that, guys that have had a lot of tenure and guys have had success in the league, that's why I kind of get a little pushback when I'm saying, they could have went with the big name. They could have went with the big name. But again, Kyle likes to make names. Kyle's coaching tree, you can't bet against Kyle's coaching tree. Kyle has put together a hell of a staff. He's put together a hell of a coaching tree, and all his coaches are around the league. So they know who works for them. They understand the scheme. They're not going to change it up. So if you look at it that way, yeah, Kyle knows what he's doing. He's hired so many good coaches that have went on to become, prominent coaches in the league. I mean, you saw the combine, right? You saw the combine this week. How many former Niner coaches or front office members are there representing their team, their new team? So you can look at it that way. So Let's take a look at the comments. How's everybody doing? I know I just got right to talking. I got a busy morning myself. I got to get to work, but I want to see what you guys are talking about. How's everybody doing? Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the new era, the Nick Sorenson era. Danny says, good morning. We just have to trust the process now. Keep the faith. Yeah, we just got to trust the process. Carl says, how's everyone feeling about this hire? That's a good question. How are you guys feeling about this hire? Raymond said, I'd rather have Nick as a DC rather than Staley. Okay, yeah. So would you rather have Nick Sorenson as your DC or Brandon Staley? And maybe that's what the 49ers came down to it. They were like, well, would we rather promote within and give us, Sorensen? Or should we take this Brandon Staley guy to make him DC? Maybe that's what the Niners looked at it too. So April says, good morning. Tanisha says, John Lynch mentioned Nick during his combine presser when he mentioned his position in the past tense. They knew who it was beginning of the week. Yeah, I pretty much think they knew. Obviously, they can tell. I mean, when you go back and you listen to John Lynch talk, I think he pretty much told us it was going to be an in-house hire. But we wanted the dream. We wanted to dream big. We wanted to keep hope alive that it was going to be Vrabel or Bill Belichick. Everybody was hoping for the big news. But I think if you really, go back and listen to that interview, John Lynch. I was listening to a little bit. I was looking at some of the clips before I went live. And yeah, you're right. I think John Lynch basically made it known that, yeah, we're going in-house, but you guys aren't going to like it. My man, 49er business, 49er minded. My man, 49er minded bashes. We standing on business. Yeah, we standing on business. Susan says, did they even kick the tires on Vrabel? I'm sure we're going to get some reports down the line. I'm sure we're going to get some reports saying the Niners could have went. They reached out for blah, blah, blah. They reached out for ... Because yesterday there was a report from Diana Rossini that says that the 49ers did look into Spags from the Kansas City Chiefs, right? So Steve Spagnuolo, they looked into getting him as the defense coordinator. But then obviously Niners lose to the Chiefs, and the Chiefs extended Spags within days of the Super Bowl. So the Niners looked into getting a big-time guy like that. They wanted him. They wanted Spags. So I'm sure they kicked the tires on some other of these coaches that we all wanted. But we'll get those reports down the line. Those things always come out, couple days, couple weeks after, the news surfaces, and we're like, oh. And it's just to kind of like pour salt on the wounds. Oh, well, we could have had him, but we didn't. And then people are going to be pissed off at, look at the Niners, Kyle Shanahan and John. They had a chance. They had a chance. We don't know what's exactly going on, but I could probably see that in the near future, we're going to see some reports saying, well, the Niners looked into Mike Vrabel, but they didn't get him. Steve, oh no, says, hope I'm wrong and it works out, but I want another season where we're calling for the DC to be fired for midseason. I don't want another season where we're calling for the DC to be fired midseason. I agree. And I hope that this works out. I want nothing but the best for Nick Sorenson because we want this to go well, right? We want the 49ers to do good because the better they do, the better it is for us as fans and people that cover this team. We want to see winners. We don't want to see losers. So you're right. Let's hope that this works out. But again, they have a guy in Nick Sorenson that they can stay true to their scheme. They could stay in-house. They could stay, close to what they do. They don't have to change their philosophy. Whatever's been working works. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. Fred Warner, Nick Bosa, they can continue to be Fred Warner, Nick Bosa, and all these other guys. You add a few pieces here and there, and then you infuse some new ideas. It's like a fusion of new ideas. Here comes Brandon Staley. Here's some new ideas. Yo, Nick, okay, I don't like this blitz on second down. Why don't you run this type of, play on this second? So you have a new guy that's going to give you some new ideas. Now, I don't know if I'm going to like those ideas because we don't like what Brandon Staley did as a head coach, right? We don't like what he did. We don't like what he did as a head coach with the Chargers, but he has been a good defensive mind before those moments. Again, if you look at the Rams team, obviously it was a stacked team, but the 49ers have a stacked team. It was a good defensive coordinator. So we'll see. Sometimes in a different role, a guy can shine. He's a veteran mind. Nick Sorenson's a new defensive coordinator. So you bring this guy who has coaching status, head coaching job, right? Brandon Staley, who's got a chip on his shoulder. And now he could come in with Nick Sorenson and give him a few new ideas. So we'll see. My man Flood says, this was not the burst of new energy. This just seems like We are running on the same circles for the past 7 years. I see that too. I see that point. I do feel like it's just copy, paste, rinse, lather, repeat, right? Rinse, lather, repeat. Boom, next day. Rinse, lather, repeat. Kind of like Groundhog Day. You wake up, it's the same thing. I feel like that's the case. I know that's why a lot of people aren't excited. Like you don't like you wake up this morning, you're like, oh, the new DC, Nick Sorenson. It's like who? I think that's the vibe people get. Is people are not excited about an in-house hire. I wasn't. I wasn't excited. I mean, I was like, okay, I'm happy for Nick. I'm sure the players are happy for Nick. They know the guy. He's been on the team since 2022. So it's like, all right, cool, Nick, you get your moment. But overall, it's kind of like a little ho hum. So I see that too. My man 49er Minus says, we got two DCs basically. Yeah, that's what I was saying is the Niners basically have two guys for the price of, well, maybe not for the price of one. Two guys for the job of one. You got two guys doing one guy's job. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. My man Flood says, agreed. Really felt like getting Bill or Vrabel would have helped Kyle not even think about the defense and focus on scheming up plays. And I think that is the biggest takeaway is we don't want Kyle to be worried about the defense. Although he's a head coach, he should be worried about everything. Like I'm sure that that goes into every part of his plan every week going into a game. But at this point, you've gotten to the Super Bowl twice now, and we know you need to focus as much as you can on that offense. Because let's not throw anything to the side. Let's keep it a buck here. The 49ers offense wasn't beautiful in the Super Bowl. It wasn't like amazing, right? In that third quarter, where were they? Kyle Shanahan kind of got outplayed. He got outcoached. He got outschemed. He needs to be tightened up himself. So if he has to worry about other things outside of his control, he needs to worry about what he has control of. And I keep saying he needs to hire an OC, but that's a whole nother story for a whole nother day. That's a whole nother show. But at the end of the day, I kind of feel like that if he had a guy like Vrabel, he doesn't even need to think about defense. Vrabel's got that on lock. He's like a head coach himself. You know what I mean? So at the end of the day, we got to realize the 49ers, they did regress last year. And, Kyle had a lot of stress on his shoulders. I mean, overall, the 49ers defense went from number 1 to number 12 last year. We got to think about that. So, yeah, I know a lot of people are saying, well, they could have just kept Steve Wilks. This is where I'm getting to. A lot of people say you could have kept Steve Wilks. Their run defense dropped too, like a very substantial amount. Let me see. I know I had this down somewhere. I think so. Yeah, they went from number 1 to 12 defensive wise, but then run defensive wise, they went from number 2 to 27, I believe, overall. So there was some issues there, and we saw it in the playoffs. I mean, the run defense was not getting to where it needed to be. They were getting gutted. So maybe Nick Sorenson can help them in that. Again, he's a guy that knows the scheme. Maybe he sees some things that Steve Wilks was doing wrong. And then you got Brandon Staley, a fresh new look of, fresh new eyes on the team to say, hey, you guys are doing this wrong. Although I wouldn't trust them. It's just me though. But yeah, so that's what the Niners need to fix. They went from number 1 to 12 overall and number 2 to 27 in run defense. So they got to figure out a way to get them back towards that number 1 or even top 5. It doesn't even need to be number 1, but they need to play better defensively. I showed this stat a couple of days ago, right, in terms of where the 49ers defense went. And I know the playoffs are different from the regular season. I get all that. But this is a big, big, big stat, right? In the regular season, they allowed 17.5 points per game. In the playoffs, they allowed 25.7 points per game. So obviously, they played weaker opponents at some points in the regular season. There's more games. But it is a good stat because it tells you this in the playoffs, quality opponents, quality players that you're going up against. Your defense wasn't up to par against that quality. So Nick Sorenson, he's got a lot of pressure on his shoulders. And, Brandon Staley, hopefully he could take some of it off. That's why you have two guys there. Now, the other thing is I still think there was a lot of pressure after losing D'Amico, right? So maybe the pressure is going to be a little less, right, on Nick. But then when you think about it, no, it's going to be about the same. They couldn't replace D'Amico 100%. That was big. Those are big shoes to fill. Steve Wilks tried his best. And now you have a guy, Nick Sorenson, who has pressure to at least be as good as Steve Wilks. And you have to replace what D'Amico can do. You got to the Super Bowl. You couldn't get it done. So now can Nick Sorenson be the one to take him over the hump with Brandon Staley? There's a lot of pressure on these guys. So we'll see. Kitty says, judging by the Super Bowl postgame interviews, players definitely killed Wilkes in the player exit interviews. Yeah, oh, yeah. I wish I would have seen. I wish we could see what the players said in the locker room. It didn't seem like the 49ers players were really all in on Steve Wilkes. I mean, Nick Bosa basically threw him under the bus many times this year, and then in the end, it did sound like they weren't too happy with that game plan. Fred Warner as well. So yeah, I feel at the end of the day, not only Kyle but the team kind of soured up on Steve Wilkes. And now I think they're going to be happy with Sorensen again. He's been on the team for a couple years. I think they're going to be happy that, hey, Nick got his job, but we'll see, man. It's going to be interesting. Lupe says, ask Jimmy Ward his thoughts. We should ask Jimmy Ward his thoughts. If we go live on Instagram later today, maybe Jimmy Ward will pop in like he usually does, and we can ask his thoughts. We'll see what he says. He's coached on, he played under Nick Sorenson a couple years back when he was on the team. We'll see what he's got to say about that. See, looks like Kitty says, I wish we would have got Vrabel as a DC or a consultant. I agree. Big City Man says Kyle needs to study and beat Spagnuolo. Nothing else matters. Yeah, even the Niners need a new passing game coordinator, says Steven Reynolds. That's still a big hire. Kyle needs an OC, says Steven. My man Cosmo says time for big changes for this team. Can't keep bringing it back. At some point, when is this gonna when is the scheme? When is things gonna hit a levee and say, okay, it doesn't work? I don't know. It's been working. Maybe Kyle doesn't feel they need a big change. That's why they didn't go for a big name, DC hire. So again, I think they love the system. That's kind of what John Lynch said a couple of days ago. That they don't want to make big waves. They feel happy with what they have, and this is what they went and had to do. Is you get an assistant, a guy that can help out, and you keep it simple. You keep things the same. That's what he said. John Lynch did not want to move away from what they're used to. So I don't know. You tell me if this is going to be good or not. We're going to have to find out. They could have got the man Billy B. They could have got the man Billy B. They didn't though. They ended up getting these two. Ladies and gentlemen, these are your new coaches. You got Nick Sorenson on the left, and you got the man with the plan, Brandon Staley, on the right. So we're gonna see. We won't know until it till the live bullet starts flying. I think a lot of us are not too happy because they wanted the big name. Well, of course we wanted the big name, and I think a lot of us are sour to the fact that Brandon Staley just was not good as a head coach, and we are left with that impression. Now they have Chip. Now he has a chip on his shoulder. Can he change our mind? Can he do good? Can he go out there and help us win a championship? I hope so. So, we'll see. I hope that next year we're not sitting here hoping that we get another defense coordinator. I hope Nick Sorensen's the guy, and he can really become a stingy, just damn, fantastic defense coordinator. But there's gonna be a lot of pressure on him because you fired Steve Wilkes. He wasn't horrible, but he wasn't the guy you wanted. Kyle and him didn't see eye to eye, right? They just didn't get along. You could tell they butt heads a lot. Now, if Nick Sorensen has a worse job than Steve Wilkes, if he didn't do good, if he has a worse year than Steve Wilkes overall, don't win a Super Bowl, and his defense is playing worse than Steve Wilkes, you can't keep him on this team. You can't keep him as DC. Like, that's kind of in my opinion, you really have to show out if you're Nick Sorensen. You have to be better than what Steve Wilkes did. Overall, you have to. If you don't show improvement, why the hell are we keeping you? Fire him, Kyle. That's the way I look at it. Is okay. This guy didn't do good enough. He didn't do better than Steve Wilkes. The guy you fired, now you have to fire Nick Sorensen. So that's why it was like a little tough for me to say, okay, hire the in-house guy. Because if this guy doesn't work out, you're going to have to get a new DC anyways. So we shall see. We shall see. We shall stay. My man Flood says, Bash is correct. They did reach out to Bill out of respect, but he declined. That's the rumor. Oh, we'll see. It's nothing officially official. I'm sure that's true, though. I'm sure they reached out to Billy, and Billy says, nah, man, I'm cool. I don't need the job right now. I want to do my thing. I want to be Billy B. I want to go and commentate or whatever he's going to do. I'm sure that's probably true. Again, we don't know if that's 100%, but I'm sure that's what happened. If the 49ers didn't at least call Bill Belichick, that's outlandish. At least call him, man. At least give him a courtesy call. Oh, hi, this is John Lynch of the San Francisco 49ers. Oh, hi, this is Bill Belichick, one of the greatest coaches of all time. What could I do for you? Yeah, well, Bill, we have a open defensive coordinator position. Remember, this John Lynch, 49ers, Super Bowl runner-up. Oh, you have an open position? What is that? Is that head coach? No, Kyle Shanahan's still our head coach. What's the position? A defensive coordinator. Yeah, I'm going to decline that. But thanks for calling me. Have a great day. Take care. I hope you guys win Super Bowl. I don't like the Chiefs. Can you please beat them for me? Okay, thanks. Have a great year. That's probably how it went down. I don't know, but I would be surprised if they didn't call him. Now, if they didn't call him, they're gonna get a call from me about not calling Bill Belichick. So, yeah, we'll see how it goes. Anyways, you guys have a good rest of your day. Let's take 2 more questions here. We'll go to 30 minutes. I have to bounce. I have work. Can you believe that? Debo switching his number from 19 to 1. I don't know. That's not official. I don't know. I don't think it's true. We'll see. We shall see. Even though Steve Wilkes cost us the Super Bowl, says Joseph, he still wasn't the worst DC. So will not be too easy to be better than Wilkes, who had experience as head coach and coordinator. I think that's a good take right there. I mean, we didn't like Steve Wilkes. Kyle Shanahan didn't like Steve Wilkes, but he wasn't horrible. It wasn't like he was mid. He wasn't bad. I mean, this is the thing. People are going to sit there and say, oh, he was terrible. He had to go. He did have to go. Him and Kyle didn't see eye to eye. When you're not seeing eye to eye with your head coach, you got to go, my boy. So I think that's the biggest takeaway. Like, Steve Wilkes wasn't horrible. He wasn't great. I think he was above mid. I wouldn't call him mid. He was good. There was times where I was like, oh, wow, okay. He did help the defensive backs. He did help Diamond Lenore. He helped Mooney Ward, elevate their gameplay. But he wasn't good enough to win a Super Bowl. And Kyle did not see eye to eye with him. He was not happy with his production, and the way he called plays at the end of that Super Bowl. So had to go. Again, there was a mid-season move where he had to go from the booth down to the field. Sideline Steve was created because of that move. And I feel like Kyle had a lot of tension with Steve, and I think that's maybe what led him out of the way. But you're absolutely right. You have to play better as a defensive coordinator. You have to be better than what Steve Wilkes did, because it wasn't horrible. So if Nick Sorenson does worse than Steve Wilkes, he's got to go. That's my opinion on it. Maybe I'm too harsh. I don't know. But this is a Super Bowl. This is a Super Bowl team. Super Bowl window is not going to be open forever. The window closes a little by little every year. I mean, there have been worse defense coordinators in the league. It wasn't like he was gutter trash, but he wasn't like what we wanted. And again, he had to follow in the footsteps of DeMeco Ryans. DeMeco Ryans was a fantastic defense coordinator. He's a fantastic head coach. Look at him now. So big shoes to fill. That was a tough spot for whoever took that job. I feel like whoever took that job was going to have a very difficult time being a DC. They're going to have high expectations, because we're always going to compare him to the guy before, and that was DeMeco Ryans. Now we're going to compare Nick Sorenson to Steve Wilkes. So maybe Steve Wilkes, in our eyes, wasn't that good. To a lot of people's eyes, Steve Wilkes was terrible. So if Nick Sorenson can at least be, a little bit over mediocre, people go, oh, look, see, he's good. And that's what I think is going to be going on this year. Is people are going to compare him to Steve Wilkes, not DeMeco Ryans. I just need to see this team win a championship. And can Nick Sorenson get this team over the hump? I don't know. Maybe the 49ers, that's why they brought in Brandon Staley also. You got 2 guys doing one man's job. We'll see, ladies and gentlemen. It's tough, man. So we'll see. Going to be a lot of pressure on whoever is in that position. That's a pressure cooker situation. A Super Bowl talented team should be winning Super Bowls with this team, but they fell short. It's unfortunate. We're all upset still, but I don't know. I have faith in this team. They've gotten far. Can Nick Sorenson be the guy? We will definitely find out. Yeah, I don't know. I still got to come around to the concept that they got Brandon Staley on this team. But again, a veteran, he understands defense. He's been around defense for many years. Didn't work out as a head coach, but maybe he could be a good consultant to Nick Sorenson. And I think that's the biggest takeaway, is he's going to give him some new ideas, be his assistant, and, make sure this team is got some fresh new perspectives that they might be seeing. Because what is one thing you guys keep saying is it's the same thing. It's the same thing. 49ers are doing the same thing. Okay. So now you get Staley, who's not doing the same thing. He has different concepts. So then he's going to infuse his different concepts on the team. So yes, we have the same thing going on, but now we have a team with a new guy that can change a little bit of the same thing that you've been doing. I guess that's the way to look at it. But in any case, it's going to be tough. The 49ers have talented players on the defense. So you should have at least a middle of the pack defense with Warner, with Bosa, with Mooney Ward, Armstead, and all these guys. There's so much talent on his defense. Like, it should be at least middle of the road without being coached. Right now, with being coached, this should be a top 5 to 10 defense. It should be. That's the way I look at it. This defense is so damn talented. We got so many good players on this team. It should be a top defense. Let's hope Nick Sorenson is the guy. Let's hope Brandon Staley can help us out. I don't know. We'll see what happens. You guys have a good rest of your day. I got to get my ass to work. We'll be back a little later live. We'll talk all about this later. I'll be live on Instagram later when I finally get home sometime. Love you guys. Have a good day. Go Niners. Let's hope this move pays out. We love you.